tell us about now starting a law firm and why migration law?
Well, I guess I went through this journey myself when I was new to this country, very naive and very unknown about the complex visa system. And even for when my visa expired, I did not receive a proper guidance from, whatever the professional help that I was seeking. And people were too busy and they did not put me in the right direction from the beginning. So I guess, and then I realized, okay, well, this is something that I felt there is a big gap in the market, because if myself did not find anyone who's gonna come out and help me out properly, rather than just making me another, a guinea pig of trying new visas with me, or maybe, asking me to join different college to make money out of me, which is very apparent to me from the beginning. So I saw a real gap in the market, and also I transacted with certain community professionals as well, and I find a huge lack of professionalism. There was a breach of confidentiality, there was a breach of privacy, because they were talking about my case with some third party in the barbecue parties and stuff like that. So I've realized there is a big gap of professional services in our community, especially in the police community, but then I've been servicing every community at the moment. But again, I identified the gap, and I thought I might fulfill the gap in the market with my corporate / people experience in the past, with the quality education that I received into the community, and I think it worked out well.
Cool. Is it okay if you can just close this?
Yeah.
Just close this on the screen. Okay, wow. So how is that now opening? Because what's interesting for me is, again, like you saw, wow, if I haven't received guidance doing this, and it's your life in the hands, you want to stay in Australia. Imagine how many other people, are going through the same thing.
Spot on.
Yeah.
And Australian immigration policies and laws are ever changing. And it's one of the most volatile, regulation or act that you wanted to say, that keeps changing in Australia out of any act that or any bills that gets passed. So, and it's very hard for people to keep up with it. So I think with that view of letting people know about what's changing, what's coming up, has also played a vital role for my success.
Okay. So how did it start?
Started with the one couple that I found who needed my help to apply for a partner visa. And my first application that I did was almost pro bono, because I remember my first service charge I asked for them was $500, and then this was a very complex partner visa process that I went through. But then that couple is still with me up until date in my connection, because they feel that I actually looked after the case really well, and I helped them out when they needed the most. And the husband now is Australian Federal Police.
Wow.
The wife was the Australian citizen, and then they got 3 kids now, and they got 3 beautiful daughters. And if they're watching this video, they know exactly who I'm talking about.
Hey guys, this is Rubasha here at the Just Co offices, made for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. You see, we're living in the greatest time to be alive, where you can use the power of social media, where you can get your voice out there, your brand. How can you put yourself in the front position? How can you use and utilize a media network to be able to build your brand? That is the mistake so many people make. They don't know how to build brand. They don't know how to use their voice and the art of communication to storytell. We have that platform, the Rubasha Family Podcast, made for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs, where you could utilize the power of social media to get your voice out there. You're gonna either do 2 things. You're gonna keep scrolling, or you're gonna take action and create history with the revolutionists. You have one choice. Don't be like the 98%. Take action now. Wow, okay. So I want to tap in there, because also what I'm getting from you and when I walk into this store is a family environment. But why is a partner visa so difficult? Why did you suffer difficult challenges?
Well, because in certain cases, like if you're not holding a proper visa and you just because you're marrying someone in Australia or you're in a relationship with someone in Australia, doesn't necessarily mean your visa process. It's not a golden visa, what people think, like you just find Australian partner or a citizen, you get married, and it's not a golden visa. There's still certain complexity we have to deal with it, like particularly Schedule 3, which I don't want to bore you with the detail, or public interest criteria 4020, things like that. There is still, we have to navigate through a complex process. So, and this particular case was one of them. So not all cases are as simple, like, they both hold a valid visa. They just wanted to, one has to hold a valid visa, another one's Australian citizen or PR. And then they went in a relationship, everything was honky-dory, then they come to you. Well, basically in easier cases, people tend to lodge the application themselves. So they only seek a professional help when there is some complexity around it. And I guess I'm the lucky one to get all of that.
You're the lucky one. So if I bring a hypothetical scenario to you, right? I have a girlfriend, let's say she's overseas in Africa, Kenya. What would be the best way for me to bring her to Australia?
Well, there's a couple of options there. Like if you have met this person in person, like you have actually met them once, then there is something called visa subclass 300, which is prospective marriage. As the name suggests, you have a perspective of getting married with this person. So which means you can apply for this visa. This so-called girlfriend or partner in Africa will come to Australia. And then once the visa is granted, of course, she will come to Australia, and then you have obligation to get married within 9 months with this person. That's a good way of, trial before you buy kind of a deal. So, or if you're certain about this particular relationship and you do see yourself living with this person ongoingly, and then, there is a genuine commitment for each other, then you can simply get married and we can apply for a partner visa offshore, which is 309 and 100 visa subclass. And if this person can come to Australia on a, just to visit Australia, and if they're visiting, and if you decided to get married in Australia, then we can also apply for onshore partner visa 820, 801.
Okay. And what about the student visa pathway? Is that, because sometimes, like I've heard and, through other people, because it's so crazy when I think about it, this migration, it's an interesting topic. And I feel that's why I love this, because we can now bring this out to the world, and someone like yourself who has the experience, who has the knowledge, can help so many people, and people who are in similar positions. So let me ask you, the student visa pathway, and is it a red flag to the government or the visa when it's like a young person? So let's say I'm 27, she's, let's say, in young 20s. Is that navigation?
Well, the student visa has been evolving, or ever evolving visa, because government tends to put some sort of control measures depending on what country, what risk assessment country I would say, because every country and every education providers has been given a risk rating, which is an internal reporting system that operates with the Department of Home Affairs. So, and how does this rating operate is depending on how many people have misused or abused the visa and have come to this country, and basically they've applied for a student visa as a gateway to come to this country, and they're not a genuine student. They have come here and exploited the visa, and they've applied for a protection visa, or they went unlawful, things like that. So based on the behavior of the people, where they're coming from, there is some methodology that is put behind the algorithm, and then that's how the Department of Home Affairs will allocate the countries based on the risk rating. So if your risk rating is 3, that means like that's not so great in terms of visa perspective, 2 is okay, and the 1's being very good. So usually 1 indicates that these people coming from this particular countries are, utilizing the visa for whatever the purpose they're saying on the application. They come here, they fulfill their studies, and they usually return back home. So as opposed to applying for different visa subclasses and try to push their stay for longer in Australia. So there is no general view as such. I don't think the Department of Home Affairs is discriminatory in terms of age or in terms of what they're doing, but I think it's all because Australian immigration law has a really nice foundation. It's not so, it's not, if you compare this with the American visa, which is very discretionary, which is very based on the case officer, based on the interview with the case officer. Well, Australian visa is all around legislation, all about being able to fulfill the legislation. And some legislation, some regulations are quite broad, so that the case officer can have some sort of discretion. And with the student visa, we call it a genuine temporary entrant criteria, which is what we call Direction 69, Migration Regulation 500.212. So with this particular, legislation is bound to look at the immigration history of this person, education history, the relevance, why this person wanted to come to Australia, their education history back home, how they're going to utilize this particular qualification when they reach back home, things like that. So there is a tools for the case officer to assess all of this. So as long as this person can demonstrate, that this person is a genuine student who's want to come to Australia, genuinely wanted to study and come back home, I don't see any problem with the visa application. But then because there's a lot goes around the world for people who wants to come to Australia, they do many creative works in their paper application. So that's when things gets a little bit messy.
You have that gift, you have that talent, and that gift and talent needs to be seen. It needs to be heard. Your downfalls, your amazing moments, your business needs to reach more people. That is what we do here at the Rubasha Family Podcast. So for a select few, we can have you as a guest on our show. For me as the host to ask you questions about what you do. This is a skill, creating this content, being able to film, produce it. It is a valuable skill that we have learned, and we want to utilize that to help as many people as possible. So you'd have me as your host, ask you questions, get to know you and your business and how to build up your personal brand. We're then able to market and repurpose content from the podcast on all platforms, including your network. So if you really want to be in touch, if you want to be a guest on our show and be able to use marketing material from this valuable podcast, from your valuable story out to more people, we have that available.
Massive. Okay. I kind of went off on a tangent, but this is great information. So you have that client, and like you said, still to this day, how long ago was that? Nearly?
Well, this was 8.5 years ago, almost 9 years ago.
8.5 years ago, and the fact that these people are still in your life today,
yes,
family environment is something that's very important. So how did you scale from there? Like, you get that family, you obviously did well for them. How did you be able to scale?
Well, I guess my next move is, because I'm a Supreme Court lawyer now. Before I was a migration agent, so my job is to start looking at how can I help out the community in other areas as well. And this is a very important topic. I guess domestic violence is on the rise at the moment with our particular community, because they're not aware about this, the law in Australia. Unconsented sex, rape, sexual activities, that is at workplace, or exploitation, underpayment, employment underpayment, like people are getting, cash in hand job and things like that, not being aware about the legal implication. Even some criminal charges like, driving under influence, or common assault, having a nice party with a friend, and next thing is all escalate to having, altercation, and then a person being charged with the offense, the assault charge and things like that, and also the implication of that in your visa application. So there's a lot of awareness piece that I need to work on, and I think more so than, yes, there is a growth of the business, I need to look into it, which means expanding another branch and having more people, helping out people in a different area of Australia. But there is a real sense of corporate responsibility. CSR is what we call corporate social responsibilities. And I think being the industry leader, especially in our community, I think personally we need to expand that responsibilities to make people aware about certain legal aspect of things or behavior or the act they do in Australia and the legal implications, so that I can still educate our community to make sure that they don't get into trouble.
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're gonna love that one.